The Premier League was riddled with VAR issues last week. Let's hope this week's predictions aren't affected. Before we jump into the video, check out the rules. They're on the screen right now. Pause the video if you need to and get to know them. At the end of the day, the more people involved, the better. That's right, this is Premier League Predictor, the series where we take on each other in predicting the Premier League results. You get more points the better you do. Can you guys do me a favour before we get into the predictions? Can you please drop a like on this video? And if you're new, please do subscribe. We're trying to hit 1,000 subscribers by September. Last episode only got 4 likes. There are a lot of you out there watching this. Please just do me a favour. The more people that like this, the further the video will go. The further the video goes, the more people to compete with. Let's start off by looking at my Game Week 23 results. And my God, these were not very pretty at all. I was awful last week. In fact, I put out a short, and I put a short out every week to say, like, oh, you know, these are my predictions for this week. And I got ridiculed by one fan in particular, who I believe was a Fulham fan. He wasn't happy with my prediction whatsoever. And turns out that he was very much correct and I was wrong. So I apologise for that. But yeah, I only got 2 points. Both Manchester clubs getting the wins that I predicted them. Apart from that, I got every other result in the Premier League incorrect. Check back later in this video to see how you guys got on. I can almost guarantee you did better than me. For now, we're taking a look at Game Week 24 and seeing the games that we've got ahead of us this weekend. Remember, the first game is kicking off on Saturday at 12:30, Aston Villa versus Arsenal. So you need to make sure that if you are playing along at home, you get your predictions in the comments before that game kicks off. As for this week, I think the tastiest fixtures are that London derby between Spurs and West Ham, but also Newcastle versus Liverpool. That could be a real big game. Aston Villa did get beaten by Man City last weekend, but Arsenal actually dropped points to Brentford. Now, Arsenal are going to want to turn this around. They really do need to start getting their act together if they want this title challenge to be decent. They have got a game in hand over Manchester City as it stands. I'm actually recording this on Wednesday morning, so I haven't seen Man City's midweek game. There's a chance City are actually level on points. But actually, no, they're playing Arsenal, aren't they? So I have not seen that fixture. City versus Arsenal could be a massive title decider. You guys will know more than me about how that game went. But let's say City get a result there. Arsenal are going to need to get a result against Aston Villa more than anything. They will still have a game in hand on Man City, but I don't know where they are. I do not know the position at the moment, which is a massive disadvantage to me having to record this so much in advance for you guys. So I've gone for a win to Arsenal. I've gone for 2-0 to Arsenal. I don't see Villa really posing a threat to them, and depending on how they've done up against City on Wednesday, it could be literally a 6-pointer. Crystal Palace and Brentford both had very decent game weeks last week. They managed to both get draws. Crystal Palace were up against Brighton, which is a very good result for them. Brentford were up against Arsenal. Very controversial over in that game, unfortunately, but they did end up taking a point from Arsenal on the day. Now, even though Crystal Palace played so well against Brighton, I do think Brentford are arguably a better outfit than Brighton. And I think coming off a decent result against Arsenal, they'll have much more confidence as well. So I've gone for a win to Brentford in this game. I do think it'll be tight though. Crystal Palace do seem to have come into a bit of form recently, especially against clubs that are higher up the table, weirdly. If they could beat the teams in and around them where they are in the league, they'd arguably be up in the top 6 or 7 teams in the league. But unfortunately for them, they only play against the big boys. Up against Brentford, I do think they'll lose. I've gone for Brentford to win 1-0. I think it'll be a very tight game, but Brentford, for me, should win this. Again, two sides that are coming off decent results last week are Wolves and Bournemouth. Wolves beat Southampton in a massive game for them in the relegation battle. And then you've got yourselves Bournemouth, who managed to get a point against Newcastle. Just scoring a goal against Newcastle is hard enough, let alone getting yourselves a point. So that is pretty impressive indeed. Where do I think this game ending? Well, they're both coming off decent results, so I think they're both going to share the points here. I've gone for 1-1 in this fixture, and I don't really see either team having enough to take on the other one. I would argue maybe Wolves will be at a slight detriment with that red card in that last game, but we'll have to wait and see. 1-1 is the result I've gone for. Brighton and Fulham are both on 35 points right now. Brighton do have 2 games in hand on Fulham, but a win for either of these sides could see them push up and take a cemented spot in 6th place in the Premier League. Now, Where do I think this fixture is going to go? I've actually gone a little bit boring with this prediction. I think both sides have had semi-decent runs of results as of late. Fulham got that 2-0 win against Forest. To the delight of my Shorts viewer who was abusing me online this week. And then Brighton got a draw against Crystal Palace, which arguably wasn't a great result. I still think, personally, that Brighton's a better team than Fulham. But, you know, I clearly judged Fulham very poorly last week, and that came back to bite me. So this week, I've gone for 1-1. I think they're gonna draw and share the points here. And I think that that's going to benefit Brentford, who are going to get back into that battle for 6th. Two sides that will be desperate to win this fixture because it is having a massive impact on that relegation battle is Everton versus Leeds. Now, I think I'm right in thinking that Leeds still have an interim manager as of recording this. Let me know in the comments if I've got that wrong, but I do believe they haven't got a staple manager in there since Marsh left. So we've got Everton, who've had obviously change of face at Everton in recent weeks. And it is having a slightly positive impact on Everton. They didn't perform up against Liverpool, unfortunately, 2-0 defeat there. But I think that was very much down to the occasion more than it was down to the actual ability of the players. I've gone for 2-1 to Everton in this game. I think Everton are too good to go down. Like, as a club. Maybe not as the side that are currently playing for them, but as a club, I think they're too much of a staple of the Premier League. The Merseyside derby, you know, going back to like Duncan Ferguson and that sort of thing. They're too much of a Premier League club to be relegated, in my opinion. So I think they'll probably stay up, and I think that'll start with a 2-1 win against Leeds. Chelsea must start winning soon. They've spent so much money, in every single week I predict that they're going to get themselves a result, and they just don't. They've drawn 3 games in a row, and they could not ask for a better opponent than Southampton. Honestly, Chelsea currently sat on 31 points. You've got Brentford, Fulham, Brighton on 32 to 35 points. If Chelsea don't want to finish mid-table this season, they need to start winning games, and they need to do so quickly to catch up with the rest. I don't understand how the team they've built aren't winning some of these games. I've gone for a win. I've stupidly backed Chelsea again. I've gone for 3-0. Southampton are so poor, I don't see how Chelsea don't win, and don't win convincingly as well. So I'm putting myself out there. Fingers crossed they do not let me down, but it's safe to say they have let me down so many times in the past weeks. Even though Nottingham Forest have done reasonably well in recent weeks, I still think that their tie-up against Manchester City should be a pretty straightforward one. With Arsenal dropping some points recently, Manchester City have to smell blood. They need to go for it. If Manchester City are going to have any chance of being in a title race this season, this is the point that they need to dominate in. I don't know, as I said, the result between City and Arsenal yet. That could go one of two ways, obviously. If Arsenal win that fixture, they will be, another 6 points ahead of City. If City win that fixture, they'll be level with Arsenal. If they draw, then they'll still be 3 points apart from each other. Either way, this is going to be straightforward for City getting past Forest, in my opinion. I've gone for 3-1 to Manchester City, and I think in fantasy football this week, I'm going to take out Haaland. I'm actually going to get rid, because I don't think they play to his strengths at all, Manchester City, and I don't think he's getting treated the way he deserves to be treated at this club. I think he picked the wrong side. I think he's definitely gone to the wrong team in the Premier League. He should have gone to, I don't know, a Liverpool or a Manchester United, a team that would have played to his strengths a little bit more. Manchester City, just Newcastle. He should have gone to Newcastle. That's where he should have gone. Either way, he's stuck in a City team right now that don't even let him take the penalties. Like, it's ridiculous. Haaland scores penalties for fun, and they let Mahrez take it over him. Disrespectful, massively disrespectful. So he's out the fantasy football team this week. Unless he's gone and scored a hat-trick against Arsenal, then I might keep him in for another round. But I've gone for a normal City win here, 3-1. Newcastle have only lost one Premier League game all season. So I feel like I can't predict for Liverpool to win this one. Liverpool obviously got a win over Everton, but they're currently sat 9th in the Premier League, and they are a good 9 points behind Newcastle, who are currently sitting 4th. I don't see Liverpool being able to get back up into Champions League spots this season. I think Newcastle will likely get that 4th Champions League spot over Tottenham. And I don't know, there was a point where I thought Newcastle were challenging for the Premier League title. It hasn't quite gone that way, but I think that if they qualify for the Champions League, I think Newcastle will be very happy with this season, and they will invest heavily in the summer window. Now, I've actually gone for a bit of an upset by Liverpool here, because I would argue that you should be going for a Newcastle win. However, watching Newcastle recently, something they're struggling with is being clinical and taking a game and winning it. They seem to be able to do enough to keep themselves level with their opponents, sometimes not conceding and keeping a clean sheet. But what they've not managed to do recently is have that kind of bloodthirsty end to their game where they are actually taking a result and making sure they get the 3 points. Instead, they've drawn 3 out of 3 in the last 3 games. I'm going for a draw again here. I am going to go for a score draw because I feel like both sides are starting to get in the goals a bit more recently, especially Liverpool. And if it's going to be a draw, there's going to have to be goals at both ends. Newcastle haven't been great at keeping clean sheets over the last couple of games, so I think that predicting them to concede here is probably a realistic goal. I've gone for 2-2 in this fixture. I think it's going to be a pretty tight one, but I think it'll probably be set pieces for Newcastle to get them goals, and then Liverpool are going to have to try and catch up and steal a draw at the end. Manchester United are currently only 5 points off Arsenal. 5 points, and that is all. Now, Man United will be playing in Europe against Barcelona on Thursday, which I won't have seen as of recording this, but you guys might have seen a decent Man United performance, or you might have seen what I'm predicting, a pretty stale one, if I'm honest. I think Casemiro will still be banned from that game due to his red card, or does it not count in Europe? You'll have to let me know in the comments down below. I'm going to find out before you are able to tell me anyway, but yeah, it'd be interesting to see if he's able to play in that game. That'll make a massive difference to whether Manchester United can challenge Barcelona or not. But in the Premier League, they are currently only 5 points behind Arsenal. You could argue, if results go their way over the next couple of weeks, Manchester United are actually in a title race, sort of. I think they're cemented third this season. I think that third is a massive result for Man United as well. Because when Erik ten Hag came in, I only saw them finishing 7th, 8th, 9th in the Premier League because the side was that poor. What he's done with this team and the players that he's turned around is massive. What he's done for Dallow's career is brilliant. Varane is suddenly fit and playing again. David De Gea is performing well, bar a couple of mistakes, but when you're a goalkeeper, we always remember the mistakes. Rashford firing on all cylinders. Garnacho coming in and being more confident. Sancho coming back from mental health illness and doing brilliantly. What he's done with this side's insane. And he's up against the Leicester side who have won their last 2 games and got a draw. They're actually got the same record as Man United over the last 3 matches. And minus Casemiro, I think this Man United team struggles. I've just been preaching about how amazing Erik ten Hag has done, but without Casemiro in the Premier League, this Man United team struggles. And I think they're going to struggle again. I've gone for a draw. I've gone for 1-1 against Leicester. I think if we put an amazing display in against Barcelona, my prediction might change to a Man United win. But I think Leicester performing well, Maddison back making big differences. So 1-1 for me seems like a realistic prediction. The final game to predict this weekend is West Ham United versus Spurs. Obviously a massive London derby and a massive game for both clubs really. If West Ham were to get a result here, they'd put a decent gap between them and Everton in 18th place. But Spurs, if they were to lose this game, could see themselves getting caught up by Brighton. Brighton have got 2 games in hand on them. Brighton could be challenging Spurs for 5th position in the Premier League pretty soon. With Spurs, they played up against Leicester recently and they were woeful. Like, absolutely woeful. They got torn to shreds at times And up top, I'm just not convinced by their firing power whatsoever. So I'm going for an upset in probably the biggest game of the weekend. I'm going for West Ham 2, Tottenham 1. I think West Ham do it. I think that they do manage to get a result here. They haven't had a great run of form recently, but let me just check who they have played recently. They got a 1-1 draw against Chelsea. Good result. They got 1-1 against Newcastle. Good result. And then before then, they had 2-0 against Everton. Big result. So I'd argue West Ham are doing pretty well. They're another team that I always predict to do well, and then they don't. So it could go one or two ways, but I'm going for West Ham to win this 2-1. So here are my Premier League predictions for game week 24. We've got Arsenal to win 2-0 away at Aston Villa, Brentford to win 1-0 against Crystal Palace, Wolves and Bournemouth to draw 1-1, also Brighton and Fulham to draw 1-1, Everton to win 2-1 at Leeds, Chelsea to win 3-0 at Southampton, Man City to win 3-1 against Forest. We've got Newcastle and Liverpool to draw 2-2, United and Leicester to draw 1-1, and then West Ham to win that London derby 2-1. The final thing to do for this week is to check out our Game Week 23 subscribers result. Ben tops the league with 13 points. Wilf comes in second again with 8 points, and Jacklius also comes in third for a second week in a row with 7 points. The only person to drop out of the top 3 this week was me, which isn't a great look. Stuyven and Annie finished on 3, Jostle on 4, and Tinlong on 6. I've actually not put mine on there, and frankly I can't be bothered to go back and make the graphic again and put me on there. I got 2 points. I was down in the dumps this week. That is it for this video, guys. If you've enjoyed, please hit a like on it. I want to try and get as many likes on the video as humanly possible. It costs you nothing. It takes a second of your time. Please do it to help this video go further. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. We hit over 600 subscribers this week, so thank you to everyone for supporting the channel. Trying to get 1,000 before the new EA, FC, FIFA, whatever they want to call it, comes out in September, I'm assuming. So if we can get 1,000 subscribers by then, that'll be much appreciated. Thank you very much for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one.